Hello, everyone, and welcome to the W2 Report. Even the barrels have a price. Redux. I am your host, Sanji Himura. I'm joined today by a guest host who we will reveal in about 25 to 30 seconds from now. So, with that said, let us go over the ground rules. Rule number 1, do not be a dick. Rule number 2, if in doubt, refer to rule number 1. And as you may have noticed, we had some new artwork done, and we are going to report breaking news today, starting with the introduction of our guest, Red Ray. Thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here, Sanjay.
Now, please tell us why you're cool in about 30 seconds as today's meme shows up on your screens right now.
Um, don't really know how to answer that. I'm just another normal person, just interested in various things in the gaming industry, and that's been for many, many years.
Okay.
And this subject is just another thing goes into gaming history as people not knowing how to follow basic human decency.
Right. Um I know we promised you breaking news, but we're going to get into that at the tail end of the live stream today. So if you would please stay patient. We will get to that very very shortly. Now, we do have a bit of news in regards to Billy Mitchell and his lawsuit with Twin Galaxies. Uh, Apparently, one of his close associates, a man by the name of David W. Race, submitted audio to the lawyers of Twin Galaxies, basically outing him for his entire scheme of cheating. Now, we are being very careful with how we phrase things here, mainly because we are trying to avoid getting sued by Billy Mitchell.
And the fact that these are also undergoing lawsuits, which might not have all of the information
Relevant facts.
available at the
Yes.
current time.
Right. So, with that said, let us get started. Let us get started with covering William J. Mitchell versus David W. Race, defendant. This is the complaint that I recently purchased from the uh, Secretary of Courts in Broward County, Florida. Uh, Now, we have had some discussions, Red, on whether or not this is a proper introduction to the lawsuit. And the thing about this is that yes, we can all agree, we after some discussions, we can all agree that how paragraphs 1 and 2 of the lawsuit open up is proper introduction. Can we explain why?
Um, well, it is establishing who the defendant and plaintiff is. It's also specifying where in the country each of them reside, which should be enough to establish
Jurisdiction.
jurisdiction where this lawsuit can happen and what laws would be relevant for this case.
Okay. Now, paragraph 3 uh, really really sets the bar because We have an Ohio resident being sued in Florida by a Florida resident, and they're arguing over the phone call that Mr. Race submitted to Twin Galaxies. Well, rather, their lawyers.
Well, the third paragraph just establishes that the jurisdiction is in this court because of the uh, possible costs going over 30,000 US dollars.
Right. Um, Paragraph 4 is where he really screwed up, uh, in my opinion. And we're gonna say, uh, he says this court has personal jurisdiction over defendant Race pursuant to subsection 48 1.143 1A2 because he committed tortious acts within the state by recording the subject telephone call with Mitchell while Mitchell was located in Florida. He purposely availed himself to the laws of Florida, and he has requisite minimum contacts in the state of Florida, and jurisdiction over him does not offend fair play or substantial justice. Can we tell the audience why that's wrong?
So here it is relevant to just two things. The recording consent laws in the states of Ohio and Florida, as well as which party called the other party.
Right.
And Florida, you have a two-party consent law where you have to, like, both parties have to agree that the conversation is recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio is a single-party consent state.
Right.
Which means if somebody is in Ohio at the time of the call, the legal precedence is that if the call is recorded, that is legal.
Right.
Then there's also the information that which came out in late documents that apparently Mitchell was the one who engaged the call. So Mitchell called an Ohio resident who was in Ohio at the time of the call, who then recorded the conversation.
Right. And apparently, according to later documents, this is a blanket policy with Race to record all of his telephone calls. He did not treat Mitchell any differently, and Mitchell knew he was going to be recorded. So by calling him, we can reasonably infer that Mitchell gave consent to being recorded.
Which was also inherently not needed.
Yes. Because if we go into his response, we can go. Here we go. Response number 8, the request for a response on number 8. Race's calls were automatically recorded using a smartphone application. Mitchell did not specifically target Mitchell or treat Mitchell differently from anyone else calling Race. Further, Mitchell called Race. And then, when asked if Mitchell Mitchell called when the phone call was made on or about April 1st, Race did not ask to be consented to record. He said, admitted, although Race believes in good faith that Mitchell was aware that Race routinely recorded telephone calls, Race disclosed this fact to one of Mitchell's closest friends, Chris Aria, on October 2017, and Carlos Pinheiro, which is another close associate with Mitchell, further informed Race that Mitchell told Pinheiro personally that Mitchell knew Race recorded his telephone calls. And then he cited again that Mitchell initiated the subject call to race.
Which, based in the legal document, we can not confirm fully, but because this is based in legal papers, we have to go with information stated, in which we will assume, moving on, that it is actually Mitchell who was the party that initiated the conversation.
Right. But at that point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter when the phone call was made or what. It's just who recorded the phone call, which everybody admits that it was Race that recorded the phone call.
Yep.
Race recorded it in Ohio, not Florida. So what Mitchell is trying to do is he's trying to discredit Race. In my opinion, he's trying to discredit Race from testifying in the Twin Galaxies lawsuit that's going on in California. Now, I know that people won't agree with me on that, and that's fine. But the fact of the matter is that this is one way to discredit an opposing witness. Because later on, Race did admit that he handed the tape over to Twin Galaxies officials and that Jace Hall himself heard the recording.
And note, it is also in the document stated that Race provided the transcript, which is, according to Race himself, not the fact of the matter. He did provide information that led to correction of transcripts, but not the transcript itself.
Right. Now, I know that people are watching this either live or via video on demand. They're asking why does any of this matter? The fact of the matter is that if a known, actually, let's divert a little bit. If a known cheater is trying to get back into good graces with, let's say, Guinness Book of World Records, for example, he's suing everybody that he can to prevent his known bad acts from getting noticed. I mean, we have in the Twin Galaxies lawsuit in California, we have Mitchell making the allegation that the jury process with the deliberations on whether or not Mitchell cheated or not is rigged. Because he's the player of the century, according to Namkai Benko. So what we have here is we have somebody who's trying to enrich himself off of Twin Galaxies when Walter Day does not own Twin Galaxies anymore. It's just bonkers to consider that Mitchell is trying to legitimize a cheated record.
And he's also going against one of the major platforms for record keeping when it comes to records in the video game scene. Guinness is used by him a lot for putting factual information behind his own records, despite Guinness not being the leading party in recording and verifying video game records.
Right. It's twin galaxies. The point of the matter is that I want to believe Mitchell, but it's so hard when all of this evidence stacks up on Mitchell's wrongdoing. But what we have to be careful of is not assuming everything is true, because it's not. Things have become so brazen in this is that he's become so brazen that he's willing to sue his critics. And I don't want to say drove one to suicide, drove one of his critics to suicide, but the timing and his reaction to said critic's death makes everything suspect.
But we here have to just also state that until it is proven otherwise, we cannot say with certainty that that actually happened. It is we still live in a society where you are innocent until proven guilty. So until anyone has any evidence otherwise, we cannot with confidence say that a critic was driven to committing suicide because of Billy Mitchell.
Right. I mean, he could have. Well,
It could have been a result of things going on in his life that
right.
also is related to Billy Mitchell, but without any proper evidence, we cannot say it with certainty.
Right, and we don't even have a record of the settlement that Billy Mitchell made with Apollo Legend. Speaking of which, we're gonna transition into from David Race onto Carl Jose.
Well, maybe we should just say that because of the information about the recordings and the fact that Race is a resident of Ohio and was in Ohio when recordings were made, the case Mitchell now has against him is extremely weak, and it will based on all previous legal cases in that can be compared to this will most likely end up being dismissed, but we will have to see based on what the judge ends up saying.
Deciding, yeah.
It could also end up going to a settlement, but we will have to wait and see.
Right. Okay. I promised you a bombshell today. I promised you all a bombshell today. On a few days ago, Carl Jose tweeted that Billy Mitchell is suing him for an undisclosed amount of money. Well, I happen to have the complaint today, and we're going to show it to you in a couple of minutes. I actually went to the Queensland courts, told them I was media, and I got a copy from the Australian courts in Queensland, a copy of the Billy Mitchell claim against Carl Jose. And we're going to start gonna start with not one but two emails of extortion. Well, extortion is a rather strong word. Do you agree?
I would say it's a strong claim, but depending on the phrasing used and how Billy Mitchell has acted, it can be thought of as in that type of way. Especially if you can think of it a lot like digital homicide back in the day against Jim Sterling, for example.
Right.
It's a lot of these similar elements. So if you thought that was the extortion, you might end up thinking the exact same thing here.
Right. So we have a letter from from Mitchell's lawyer. And and basically they should say uh oh, this is a different video. Now that I actually read this,
Yeah.
he's suing over uh he he he's suing for a completely different video than what he's stating, what the lawyer is stating here. He said, on or about July 25th, 2020, you posted a video entitled Guinness World Records Should Stay Out of Gaming. In the video, he stated, meaning Mr. Jose, stated that Guinness World Records were a scam and that Guinness World Records recently made a terrible decision to reinstate the world records of a proven cheater. He further identified Billy Mitchell as the person you referred to as a proven cheater. You stated that you plan to do a full video about the Mitchell at a later stage. The terrible decision you referred to was the decision made by Guinness World Records, referred to earlier in this correspondence. He went on to state that Guinness World Records' decision to reinstate the client's world records was a slap in the face to all video gamers, that Guinness has falsified its records, and that Guinness has been sufficiently paid by our client to reinstate the client records. The words and images in your video falsely imputed that Billy Mitchell is a proven cheater and is a criminal and is a person not deserving the honors bestowed upon him as having bribed Guinness World Records in order to have his world records reinstated. The imputations in question are grossly defamatory. Yeah. So, what had happened at this point is that Guinness World Records reinstated Billy Mitchell's world records without the consent of Twin Galaxies. Now, this ruined the relationship between Guinness World Records and Twin Galaxies.
Because a lot of the time, in terms of record keeping, you have to have certain amounts of evidence, and on Twin Galaxies and a lot of other sites focusing on video game records, you also have rules when it comes to achieving those records and what is required to actually be able to verify it. In terms of some of the scores set by Mitchell, it might come out from the evidence that it was in violation of certain rules,
Right.
which makes them illegible for that category.
Right.
Some, for example, being that the recorded evidence seems to be it seems to follow that of the game being played on an emulator instead of a standard
Arcade cabinet.
arcade cabinet. Yeah, which is also why Twin Galaxies refuses to
Recognize.
re-verify those records.
Right.
So while they are still records, they are not verifiable in the category that they are set.
Mm-hmm. Now, if Mitchell admitted that everything was played on name and submitted it in that category, then they wouldn't have a problem. Twin Galaxies would not have a problem with verifying Mitchell's records. But the problem is that Mitchell disguised a MAME setup inside a Donkey Kong cabinet.
Well, the thing is, because of the evidence and the past history, there might be some hesitancy from Twin Galaxies in taking any record set by Billy Mitchell as gospel, which means that he might, like, even if he tries to re-upload them now, they might be hard to get on the leaderboards because of the history that has been going on for the last many
Right.
years with Twin Galaxies against them. Like, just to get that out there, just so that somebody doesn't start claiming that he can just re-upload them there and everything will be fine and dandy.
No. Besides, as Twin Galaxies punishment, it was the same as Todd Rogers. He was thrown up all of his scores, including his Pac-Man score, which I believe he scored legitimately, were thrown off the leaderboard.
Still some speculation about that as well, but
Yeah, there's
that's
still
not really.
speculation open. There's still some speculation open about whether or not the first perfect score was achieved on an actual cabinet.
Yeah.
But the point of the matter is that all the scores that were in doubt or not in doubt were thrown off the leaderboard. Which leads me to
Okay.
letter number 2. And I believe this is the continuation of the first email. Because it's stated the same. As intimidated, our instructions are to commence proceedings against you for defamation damages. Our client, however, will not do so if the following settlement can be achieved. The deletion of the YouTube video, which was published on or about July 25th. Your written undertaking that you'll never repeat the allegations. A written apology to the client. Payments of our client's costs, which would be estimated in the form of 1,500 Aussie dollars, and the payment of compensatory damages in the sum of $150,000. Damn!
And where he got that claim, I have no idea.
No, I have no idea either. Probably to pay his lawyers. I mean,
No, that is the 1,500, but it's probably to buy. So this is extremely just meant as a joke, but it's probably to buy an arcade cabinet.
yeah. Now, here we come to the main event. We have the official complaint to Carl Jobs versus Billy Mitchell. Or rather, Billy Mitchell versus Carl Jobs. And here it is now. District Court of Queensland in Cairns. Williams James Mitchell versus Carl Jobs. And it was filed on the 13th of September 2021.
which means it was filed about a week ago on the
Yes.
date.
Yes, it was filed a week ago on the day, and I have the complaint right here. The claim in this
And
proceeding is reliant on the following facts. The plaintiff is and was at relevant times a natural person residing in Weston, Florida, in the United States of America, a well-known in Queensland, Australia, and elsewhere as a competitive video game player, recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as having achieved certain video game records.
because at the relevant time, Guinness had re-established the world records out. Yeah, so it is important to just say that this suit is regarding information that came on and after the 26th of May 2021, and anything before that is irrelevant to this case.
Right.
As the complaint says here, at least. This might change over time.
Defendant is and was at relevant times a natural person residing in the state of Queensland. He is a YouTuber. And he is the publisher. No! No. That's completely wrong. He produced the video entitled The Biggest Con Men in Video Game History Strikes Again.
And that title is written
Very
wrong.
wrong.
It is just, instead of Biggest Con Man, the actual title is Biggest Con Men, because it is a video regarding Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell, not just Billy Mitchell.
Right. He is not the publisher. No. Ben Smith, also known as Benjamin Q. Smith, otherwise known as Apollo Legend, is and was at all relevant times the defendant of complaint, blah, 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 blah. On or about 26th of May, 2021, continuing thereafter, the defendant published, no, he produced.
No, the video was published on that day.
Yeah, the video was published, but what he's saying here is that Jobs published the video. No, YouTube published the video. And concerning the plaintiff in a video entitled The Biggest Con Men in Video Game History Strikes Again, containing the following. Quote, he also sued YouTube's Apollo Legend for $1 million. I haven't spoken about this publicly, but the lawsuit ultimately ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. He was forced to remove all of his videos about Mitchell's cheating and paid him a large sum of money. This left him deeply in debt, which required him to find extra work, but with his ongoing health issues, this was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life. Not that Billy Mitchell would ever care, though. In fact, Billy Mitchell thought Apollo died earlier. He expressed joy at the thought. The lawsuit against Apollo was just as frivolous as the rest, and Apollo definitely would have won in court. But again, he was extremely ill and couldn't handle the ongoing stress. Quote the words. Ben Smith, otherwise known as Apollo Legend, was identified in the video as being the person referred to therein as Apollo Legend. On or about June the 5th, the defendant removed the words set out in paragraph 3, which is not 3, it's 4. Learn to count, Billy. In this statement from the claim, save the first and last sentences, namely the words, he sued YouTube's Apollo Legend for $1 million. And the lawsuit against Apollo was just as frivolous as the rest, and Apollo would have definitely won in court, but again, he was extremely ill and couldn't handle the ongoing stress. On or about June 11th, continuing thereafter, the defendant republished of and concerning the plaintiff set out the words in paragraph 4. No. Which date is it, Mitchell? Is it June the 5th or is it June the 11th? Which date is it? The words in their ordinary natural meaning were understood to mean that A. The plaintiff required Ben Smith to pay him a large sum of money to sell his defamation claim, which caused Ben Smith to go into considerable debt and to take on extra work to survive. A major contributing factor in Ben Smith's decision to take his own life was that the plaintiff's requirement that he pay the plaintiff a large sum of money to sell the defamation claim. No! The words and imputations are defamatory to the plaintiff. No, they're not. They're defamatory to. They may be defamatory to Apollo Legend, but it isn't. But it isn't Apollo Legend that's suing Carl Jost in this matter. Paragraph 10. The publication and republication are constituted or evidenced by or to know to be inferred or implied from the publication being publicly accessible and amendable to download further, alternatively by the defendant's failure on or about June 2021 to remove or expunge to prevent the general public access to the publication and to further the comments published about the publication. As of this date, as of the date of this pleading, the title "The Biggest Con Men in Video Game History" strikes again, and the words set out in paragraph 4 therein received 74 public comments. On or about June 5th, they published on his Twitter page the following, quote, "So at Billy Pac-Man claims he will sue me for saying Apollo Legend paid him money. I removed that portion from my video not because it is wrong, but because this isn't the issue I want to go to court with. I'd rather he sue me over his fake Donkey Kong scores," which backfired.
CDEX isn't of this complaint.
Right. As of the date of this pleading, this tweet received 111 retweets and 2.2 thousand likes. All right, this is, I believe this is cause 1, injury or hurt. Number 13. By reason of the publication of the words and imputations, the plaintiff has been injured. A. Excuse me a bit. A. In his personal and professional reputation. B. In that the plaintiff apprehends that he has, since the date of publication, and will continue to be, generally shunned and avoided by his peers, which has contributed to his sense of social shame and resultant social isolation suffered by him. No. No, no, no. Because he was I'm trying to phrase this carefully, because if I get one word wrong, I'm expecting a similar situation that Carl Jost is getting. So what had happened was, Billy Mitchell's, quote, injury was suffered a long time ago. And Billy Mitchell is suing Twin Galaxies because of it. Let's move on. C. In that the plaintiff has suffered hurt, embarrassment, and a perception of ridicule shown generally by his peers, which has further contributed to the sense of social shame and results. Blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Because the video, the biggest con men in video game history strikes again, is not what Mitchell, it's not what Mitchell's lawyers originally wrote to Carl Jost. He's saying he wrote the email on about July 25th, on July 30th, 2020, saying Guinness Book of World Records should stay out of gaming. This lawsuit right here is completely frivolous. And that there is a thing going on that Mitchell is saying that, let me phrase this real carefully.
Well, I would say that I wouldn't exactly say that this lawsuit is frivolous. It is just regarding a different matter than that first approach, than what the lawyers of Mitchell first approached Carl Jobst for. They
Right.
back in 2020, they approached him because of a video he made regarding the reinstatement of the Guinness Book of World Records, just affirmation of the records he had set back many years ago. Whereas this video is just regarding the recent updates in terms of lawsuits against Twin Galaxies, the result of previous lawsuits, among others, the settlement with Apollo Legend, as well as some updates about Todd Rogers and his updates for the past year or so as well.
Now, oh boy. Yeah, he wants $450,000 as damages, plus interest, plus costs.
So 400,000 for damages for defamation. This is all in Australian, by the way. Then
Yes.
there's aggravated damages of 50,000. He also wants interest pursuant to Section 58 of the Civil Proceeding Act of 2001, as well as the costs of this. So basically, 450,000 Australian plus interest and costs, or about 326,000 US dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Plus the interest and costs and such. Yeah, that's going to be good luck. As well as when it comes to the aggravated circumstances, if you just scroll up to paragraph 14 again.
Yeah.
Each of the imputations is false because the settlement of the legal claim between the plaintiff and Ben Smith did not require Mr. Smith to pay any money to resolve the claim, and nor did the settlement terms contribute to Mr. Smith taking his own life. That last one is just, how can he know how if a result of a lawsuit affected someone mentally or not without actually having seen or being able to talk to them about it. We do not know what the settlement was. We do not know if there was any actual monetary transfer or not. If we are to believe Mitchell, there was no monetary settlement. It was just, but we do not have any access to that as far as I'm aware. So if Mitchell actually wants this information to be verified, then he
You'd
would either
it,
have to,
you'd have to go to a Florida judge saying, "Here, I want this unsealed," and the judge will grant it.
yeah, he would have to basically make the settlement claim public and possibly also provide that to the Australian court to actually support this claim of defamation.
Now, let's keep in mind that uh, in order to prove defamation against a public figure, actual malice is required. I've seen nothing in Job's video, and I've seen both versions of this video, by the way. I've seen nothing that shows that a statement of Smith transferring money to Mitchell is defamatory, or shows any kind of malice. He's going off of available information and coming to that conclusion.
And also possibly talking to Legend before he passed away.
Right. Now, it is coming to a bit of an end for our chat. So let me pull out the meme again, because I basically said my piece. Ray, how about you say yours?
Well, for me, it's going to be interesting to follow what ends up happening in this case. We will most likely have an update from Carl's side in the next week or two. He just needs to gather the information he wants to publicize, as well as allow for some more process to be done. He might also have to talk to his legal counsel before anything. So at least I will try and keep an eye on this, hopefully to get more information about what Billy Mitchell is both trying to hide, it seems, but as well as being able to get more information supporting that he is mostly just trying to make money of people saying stuff about him, because a lot of
Right.
this just seems like slap suits and everything, and
Exactly. And
we
he's
all know
being
how slap
and
suits are.
yeah, yeah, he's being real careful about where he files. I know California has a strong anti-slap law, but
Yeah, which is also why.
He's filing in Florida because I believe. Let me look this up here. Yes. Uh, yeah, there is a lawsuit on uh, there is a law in the Florida books concerning slap, and there is yeah, you're not supposed to file a slap lawsuit in Florida. I know that Texas, where I'm at, has a very strong anti-slap lawsuit law, and there is going to be a time when Mitchell will face legal judgment over the slap lawsuits that he has filed. And the judgment may come sooner rather than later. I don't know.
We also know that Twin Galaxies decided to fight Mitchell in California, where, because of the strong slap laws and everything like that, we still have to wait and see on the result. But
the judge denied the anti-slap
oh,
lawsuit.
right.
Hence why the countersuit was filed in the first place.
Ah, yeah, right. Right, yeah, that's right.
Anyway, Red, I'd like to thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
If you want to come back on, just be sure to message me, and we'll see. We'll go from there.
Yeah, knowing how we talk, this might happen again sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I have been Sanji Imura, and if you watch Twitch at all, I will be live streaming at about 7 p.m. Texas time, and we will see you guys soon on the next W2 report.
The end of the fight. Looking back on a war, all the moves we have lost. Could we have done any more to prevent the death of friends? Whoa, whoa, whoa. This is not the way the world should be. The destruction of so many lives. Why was it you who had to go to leave us broken and me to